Coming up on We Talk News this week, the race for 25 is back on. New Hampshire's House tables the latest adult use bill, and that state's hope for legalization gets delayed indefinitely again. We have reaction from a disappointed advocate in the Granite State. Plus, there's mold and pesticides in some California weed and vapes. Independent tests prove it, and the LA Times and Weed Week breaks it. LaVonna Vassaw has more. A congressional House committee strips banking protections from a larger spending bill, another slap in the face to safe banking initiatives. And Trulieve is fined $350,000 for not providing a safe work environment in their Holyoke, Massachusetts facility that cost an employee her life. And NFL veteran edge rusher Randy Gregory is AWOL at Tampa Bay's minicamp while he sues the Denver Broncos for reimbursement of medical cannabis-related fines of $500,000. And Massachusetts issues a state waters waiver so weed can be transported to Nantucket and Martha's Vineyard this summer. All that and coast-to-coast cannabis news on Weed Talk News with Elena Pinto. Next!
We are Pro Cannabis Media.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to Weed Talk News, Pro Cannabis Media's weekly roundup of cannabis news from coast to coast. I'm Elena Pinto. Ever since Ohio became the 24th state in the U.S. to approve the legal adult use of cannabis, many advocates wonder about which state might become the 25th. Well, every week there seems to be another step forward, but in cannabis standard time, there are also two steps backward. This past week in New Hampshire, it happened again. The House of Representatives there pulled the plug on an adult use bill that had ping-ponged through their legislative process and many thought was ready to be approved and sent to the governor for his signature. There was hope by advocates that the governor's wishes for state-run dispensaries to match their state-run liquor stores would pass, but instead it was tabled or postponed until the next legal session. Well, here's two New Hampshire reps' feelings about a bill that had some flaws, but still would have at least launched an adult use legalization program.
Is that literally nobody in this body likes this bill. 2 weeks ago, the prime advocate for this bill said, and I quote, "The Senate made this bill the ugliest, most government intrusive, most over-regulated marijuana statute they could mend at the midnight hour." And he was right then, and that statement remains true today.
We have the opportunity today to make history as the 25th state to legalize cannabis, which may tip federal action. There's already discussion about descheduling, and there's discussion federally about changing the status of cannabis within the country. Imagine if your vote today led to that change in federal policy where it no longer was federally prohibited. More importantly, though, today we have the chance to get the ball rolling in New Hampshire. Most of this bill won't go into effect until 2026, which gives us more time to fight about some of the challenges and some of the concerns we have.
Our own New Hampshire insider is Tim Egan, a former House rep from Grafton, New Hampshire, and the chair of the New Hampshire Cannabis Association. He talked with PCM founder Jimmy Young about what happened.
I think that's what surprised me the most was that they decided to table the bill. I think this is why people have issues with politicians, is they don't make decisions or they don't listen to each other. So here they decided to table the bill, not make a decision, and let it sort of twist in the wind. You know, I have always been in favor of legalization because it leads to safety in so many levels, right? We know where the product comes from. We know what's in the product. We know who gets the money from the product. So we couldn't even accomplish that in New Hampshire. So it's kind of frustrating that, you know, they talk a good game about protecting our children and protecting our people. They had an opportunity to start that, and you could always make legislation better. That's what legislators do. Each year they change legislation. So I was surprised that they decided to table it, not take an up and down vote. I'm not surprised by the animosity between progressive Democrats and libertarians in New Hampshire. It's sort of like a big circle. They both meet at the end, which is we don't like government control. Libertarians don't like big government, and progressive Dems don't like the liquor commission's control. They obviously, if anyone knows anything about New Hampshire, they run all the liquor stores, state-run liquor stores. So they were worried about giving more control. Those combined votes led to its tabling.
So now, which state will be the one that will take its place as the 25th legal state? Florida and South Dakota, they have it on their ballots in the fall, while others are working bills through their legislatures. No matter what happens next, the 25th state will bring the count up to half of the states in the country with legalization for adults. Well, now we turn to issues considering some of the well-established legal states, like California, who continues to have issues with the quality of the cannabis available to consumers out there. Here's our California correspondent, Levana Vassow.
I'm Levana Vassow from the Bay Sesh reporting for PCM with this week's California report for Weed Talk News. An investigative article published last week in the LA Times, written by Alex Halprin and Paige St. John, called The Dirty Secret of California's Legal Weed, has exposed the inconsistencies of licensed lab reports. What they did was independently purchase 42 pre-rolls and vape products from various dispensaries and had them independently tested at labs and discovered that 25, which is over half of the 42 products tested, positive for illegal levels of pesticides and even plain old illegal pesticides. And some had over a dozen different kinds of those pesticides. This is not a good look on the industry as a whole, or obviously our state industry. And this is something I talk about often, the difference between brands who care about the quality of their products and brands who are simply out to make a quick buck. Practically everyone knows the California cannabis industry is in distress, with major players leaving the state over the past few years for greener pastures, and most of the remaining ones struggling to make ends meet. Many are trying to find a solution. The system has many bottlenecks and barriers, and one thing that could really help would be if we could have more social freedoms, like, for example, cannabis lounges. Last week, another milestone was achieved on that road. AB 1775, authored by San Francisco Democratic Assembly member Matt Haney, passed the state Senate's Business, Professions, and Economic Development Committee, advancing the bill to the Senate floor. However, don't hold your breath, because Governor Newsom vetoed the last version in 2023, stating a conflict with the state's smoke-free workplace laws. Therefore, this version includes an amendment that secures separate cannabis and food areas, and this one does not actually include legalizing consumption lounges, but it does supplement existing lounges, which local governments can allow, to serve non-cannabis foods and drinks and sell tickets for live performances. Hopefully this one goes through, which will bring the state's industry a little more freedom to commerce. I'm Levana Vassow from the Bay Sesh reporting for PCM with this week's California report for Weed Talk News.
Florida Governor Ron DeSantis continues to fight the state ballot question for legalization with the Smart and Safe Florida group, who are in favor of it. Both sides are spending millions of dollars in advertising to sway voters to agree with these different initiatives. DeSantis even decided to veto a bill banning Delta 8 THCA products for sale in that state. And he is hoping his actions would pick up support from those in the hemp-derived intoxicating products. Those items are available for sale in convenience stores, gas stations, and smoke shops throughout the state of Florida. A recent Fox News poll showed that the Smart and Safe Floridians are now projected to pass that ballot with 63% of voters in favor of the initiative. This would be considered a severe defeat for the governor. Speaking of governors who love imposing their own wishes against the will of the people, Virginia Governor Glenn Youngkin actually vetoed the legalization bill approved by both chambers of representatives in that state earlier this year. We're not sure our Virginia correspondent will ever forgive him for that. In the meantime, here he is, Joe Parsons.
I'm Joe Parsons with the Virginia Cannabis Connection and Pro Cannabis Media's Weed Talk News. Today, I am fortunate enough to be in the beautiful city of Charlottesville at Higher Education with Don and Seth. And they're going to first tell us a little bit about what they do, about what they do for the cannabis community. And then we're going to ask them a couple questions about the 2024 hemp bill and what it means to them and stores like theirs. So, Don, first tell us what it is that higher education does and how did you get involved in the world of cannabis?
So Higher Education is a contemporary smoke shop. We have everything you need to smoke cannabis, to smoke, basically smoke anything really. We have all your hippie clothes. We consider it like a lifestyle store where if you are interested in cannabis, you probably want to come in here and check out the store.
And I was going to add also the name higher education is
Yes.
really relevant because, there's a lot of misinformation in
There
this
is.
industry. And so we're also, part of that light, to bring education to the people and, educate them properly and get rid of some of those,
Stigmas.
yeah, and bad information that's out
I
there,
got it.
So
And this is one of 3 stores, correct?
One of 3 stores, yeah.
Awesome.
And we also have a mobile store so we can go to festivals and bring all this there as well. And over the years, we've been able to do more and more of that, including Coffee Talk, the podcast, where we actually bring light to all kinds of information and misinformation. And it's just been this wonderful, long, strange trip.
With these proposed amendments, it could possibly not only overturn the THCA market, it could also overturn the entire CBD market. What are your thoughts?
I feel like this is, again, government officials passing laws without understanding the repercussions of their actions. In the 2018 Farm Bill, they didn't intend to make THCA legal because they didn't even understand what it was or the possibility of it. So they passed the Farm Bill. Then, here we are, we're all coming up with ways to enjoy this bill. And now they're seeing us enjoying it a little too much and they're trying to take it back away. And I think it's an unfortunate situation. I'm not surprised by it because they're not getting enough, control over us with this. And I think if they take it away from us, they're going to be able to give that much more to the medicinal dispensaries, which I believe, have our politicians in their pocket.
Yes, the worst thing is that once they opened Pandora's box, they couldn't figure out how to close it again.
That's
And
right. We definitely have a market, and we're going to be here with or without THCA. We're going to be here with or without CBD. However, it has been a lovely addition
Oh, yeah.
to our inventory. It has made so many customers happy, and people are able to find things that are, been well tested. Everything we carry in our store goes through a testing process. We can show everybody all of the COAs so they know exactly what they're getting. They know exactly how much CBD is in it. They know exactly what the percentages of THCA are. They know exactly what chemicals were made and or not, used in growing it, which is really important because otherwise you just don't know what you're putting in your body.
Well, folks, there is one question that I wanted to ask you before I wrap this up. I hear that you two are comic book characters. Tell me a little bit about that.
We are. We were at a cannabis festival a number of years ago, and we were fortunate enough to meet Jeffrey Peterson, who is a longtime Marvel comic book creator, and for whatever reason, he met us and came up to us and said, "Can I turn you into a cartoon character?" I think it's because Seth looks so funny, but just saying.
he actually said it was the smiles. He's like, "Oh my God, the 2 of you just smile from ear to ear." And,
Yes, you do.
And
Yes,
he
you
said
do.
that he had to put
You make
that
a nice
into
couple.
comic
Thank
book
you.
form.
And
Yeah.
and then we were born into a comic book, and we have 3 of them currently. The 4th one should be coming out by the end of 2024. Seth is Aqualung, and I am the
Once
Pack
again,
Piper.
My name is Joe Parsons from the Virginia Cannabis Connection and Pro Cannabis Media, coming to you from Higher Education in Charlottesville. Until next time, stay lifted.
Over the past few decades, there have been thousands of studies on the effects of cannabis on a number of ailments, diseases, or conditions. Most of these have been focused on the cannabinoids in the flower. Well, now researchers at the University of Arizona have discovered some of the medicinal benefits of terpenes. These are components that steer the effects of the plant towards focus, relaxing, pain, relief, recovery, and many more. Here's Karen Black with more from Arizona.
I'm Karen Black from Greenfinger Consulting with the Arizona Cannabis Report for Weed Talk News. Those funky smelling terpenes in your favorite cannabis strains may just be the next big thing for chronic pain relief. A study by the University of Arizona, which was published in the journal Pain, found that terpenes like limonene, pinene, and caryophyllene were just as well as morphine at reducing neuropathic pain and without any of the nasty side effects that come with opioids. Apparently, inhaling or ingesting the terpenes didn't work as well as oral administration. While it's exciting news for sure, more research needs to be done to fully tap into the pain-killing powers of terpenes. On the legislative front here in Arizona, there were some interesting developments this past week. Bills to restrict cannabis advertising and to allow for cannabis delivery made progress. A bill to designate drug cartels as domestic terrorists was introduced, and a bill to legalize psilocybin service centers for medical mushroom treatments is heading to Governor Hobbs' desk. Speaking of mushrooms, 4 Arizonans were among 8 people who fell really sick after eating Diamond Shrooms microdosing chocolate bars, which contain Delta H THC and, I quote, a proprietary blend of nootropic and functional mushrooms, end quote. The FDA is investigating the incident. There's some fun in the sun and heat next weekend here in the Grand Canyon State. The second annual Sauced celebration, which combines barbecue, beer, and buds, will be held in Levine, Arizona, Saturday evening, June 22nd. More info and tickets can be found at canattainmentevents.com. That's all for this week's Arizona Cannabis Report. I'm Karen Black from Greenfinger Consulting reporting for Weed Talk News.
That'll do it for the A block. Next up, we share a huge 6-figure fine for the largest cannabis operation in the country, and why an NFL veteran is suing his former team for fining him for using doctor-prescribed cannabis. The B block is next as Weed Talk News continues for the week of June 17th.